and welcome to the Trotwood-Madison Thursday, November 7th, 2024 work session. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Currington?
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin?
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry?
Yes. Will we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Next, we will have our mission statement read by the Trotwood-Madison Middle School ambassadors.
The mission of Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning. By guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulating atmosphere.
Now it's time for the Trotwood-Madison Middle School mission statement.
The mission of Trotwood-Madison Middle School is to create a safe and inclusive community for all stakeholders.
That prepare students for graduation by promoting academic success,
Through leadership development, global awareness, social emotional development, and 21st century skills. Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Pearson or Ms. Newsom to give us a little background on the student ambassadors and their program, if you don't mind? Come up so we can hear you, so we can record you.
Yeah, we would like to take pictures. When she's done, she can bring them back up.
The student ambassadors, everyone, good evening. Are a group of our more elite students who are very dedicated. They're committed to everything they do with respect to academics and school life. They are our most eager kids who want to get to know everything about how the building works. They make good grades, they have good behavior, they totally exemplify the Rams way.
Before you guys leave, the Board of Education has requested that the kids come up so they can take a picture with the student ambassador. What about taking it back there with the?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let me send them back.
We'll take it back there against the wall with the backdrop, yeah, since there's so many of them. Yeah, I'm coming, who's gonna take the picture?
Thank you, student ambassadors. Great job.
Everybody gone now. I wish this was right. We still have no face.
Next, subject item E, adopt the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There is one change to the agenda.
I have one as well.
Okay, so from superintendent's standpoint, under agenda item D, personnel agenda, want to make one adjustment to the personnel agenda. Want to remove number 1 under under human resources separation of services. It's a termination that we want to remove from the agenda. Number 1, yes. Mhm. That's the only change I have. See.
And also, under number 3, board report, 3A, we want to remove from the agenda. Excuse me.
Just for information.
I'm gonna make a correction to that. I'm gonna make a correction. We're gonna keep the board report. So the only changes will be made will be the personnel agenda D1. I need a motion to adopt the agenda with changes.
I motion to adopt the agenda with changes.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Currington,
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cherry.
Yes. Motion passes. Number 2, presentations.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think everybody knows me, but my name is Janice Allen. I am the treasurer CFO for the district. I am obligated to present to the board twice a year, a 5-year forecast, one in May and one in November. So, board, in front of you in your folders, your green folders, you have, on the left, you have the PowerPoint, I think, and on the right, you have the 5-year forecast and the notes that have to be sent to the Ohio Department of Education by the end of November. It has to be filed. So this is just for information. The presentation is for information. Under the treasurer's portion, it is information for the 5-year, and then on the 21st, I will ask for your approval. And some of this, you guys have seen before, but I think it's incumbent for me to just kind of review for those in our audience that might not have seen any of this presentation. So the requirements, again, we're required to submit 5-year forecast by November 30th. November by November 30th, and May, of course, by May 31st. In the 5-year forecast, it primarily is fund for us is the general fund. There are objectives and purposes, obviously, for a 5-year forecast. A 5-year forecast gives the Board of Education and the community a snapshot of our long-range planning. And so this is a 5-year. We have 3 years of actual data and 5 years of projected data. And it just gives you some idea of where our district might be headed. When we talk about 412 certificates, when we have a large expenditure, we are required also to sign 412 certificates. And then again, this gives the Ohio Department of Education some idea of where our district is financially. I always say to whoever's listening is that, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I work with the superintendent and myself, work with our consulting, K-12 consulting, and he provides a lot of the data that we put together, this 5-year forecast. So we basically are using the most up-to-date data that we have in order to have a good forecast. So, and you'll see in our forecast, I've put a new slide this time to kind of show that variance. Anything else? So again, this forecast encourages our management teams to examine our projections, to examine what we're doing, to examine those programs that we want to bring into our district. The key line items on the 5-year, and we will put the 5-year up, is revenue and expenditures, and those are the two main categories that are on the 5-year forecast. Our funding is comprised of local and state funding, and then expenditures are the salary and wages, our benefits, purchase services, supplies and materials, and then our capital outlay. I wanted to explain some of the challenges to our operating revenue. Right now, this is the last year of our state biennial budget, House Bill 33. This will end at the end of this year. We don't know what's going to happen in 26 through 29, so we're kind of operating somewhat in the dark. We're making some assumptions, and hopefully they will pan out. The House Bill 33 provides funds to the educating districts for those students. So our open enrollment, we get the funding for that. Community and STEM schools and scholarships, they are funded to those particular districts that have those students. House Bill 33 has increased our funding, and we will remain on the state foundation formula for FY25. So on the forecast, we are forecasting or projecting that our revenue will grow only about a little less than 1% each year, and that our expenses, unfortunately, will grow 4.6% a year. And so what that means is that, and I always talk about deficit spending, we're actually spending more than we receive, and that's a challenge for every district. So we're not new to it. Every district has the same challenge. Our enrollment, and I'm going to show, I guess our next slide I'll show you. Our enrollment growth, the more students we have, the more revenue that we get. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's not. And so we just need to look at what's best for the district. And again, this House Bill 33 will end in FY25, and for the next 4 years, we don't know what funding plan will be implemented. I was able, and the EMA specialist that works for me showed me on the information that ODE has, our SAFE account, where we could get some historical enrollment data, because I was very interested in seeing how our enrollment. She said to me, Janice, there is a spreadsheet out there that shows our enrollment. So for those of you in the audience, you probably can't see this, but in FY20, we had 2,595 students. In FY24, we have 2,468 students, if I can see that correctly. She ran a report today, and we're trending for 2,628 students, which is good. So that's about 200 more than what we have today, and that's very good. She said we anticipate an increased enrollment because there are some things that are happening in our community, such as, I think it's Woodland Hills, if if I have the, community corrector or the apartment complex, they're anticipating about 400 students. Whether those 400 students come this year, I'm not sure. Does anybody know when that thing's, supposed to
It won't
to
be
be
till-
finished?
Yeah, it won't be till
No, it
next
won't-
year.
So
yeah.
next year. So next year, in its anticipation, and we don't know for sure, there might be an increased, even a more of an increased enrollment in our district. Currently, we have about 186 open enrolled students, so just FYI for you guys. So other sources of revenue, I wanted to just point out, there's two other sources of revenue that are quite substantial. Right now, we have $423,000 left in our student wellness and success monies. Those monies have to be spent by June of 2025. The majority of those funds are used to pay our Samaritan Behavioral Health contract, and that provides our mental health therapists in the schools. Our second piece of the pie is our district is allotted about $3.7 million in state and federal funds for FY 2025. Those grants include our early childhood, our Title I, Title II, Title III, individuals, and our IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act. So those are additional monies. I think if I remember correctly, December 7th, is that right, Superintendent? Our grant presentation, there will be a
Yeah.
grant presentation on the 7th of December.
Right.
So they're, I'm sorry, scheduled for Thursday, December 5th. And Jill Adams then will provide more details on our grants. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our, the facts and our assumptions on the expenditure side. And so our salaries and benefits, we increased that for FY '25 by $2.25 million because of, we had to move some of our ESSER, not some, all of the ESSER staff that was left in our district. We had to move that funding to general fund. So that increased our general funds by about $2.25 million. All of these positions were new to the general fund. Obviously, that 2.25, and you'll see that, causes some strain on our district, but we were able to absorb that between now and 2028, and I'll continue talking about that in a second. Our materials and supplies, we increased that amount in FY '25 and through FY '29. And if you think about your own household, our household has the fuel and instructional and custodial supplies, our textbooks, all those costs are increasing significantly. If you go to your grocery store, eggs now are what, $4 or something? So just if you kind of relate your own stories to what we're dealing with, it is very significant. And then again, line 6.01, and we'll look at that in a second, begins in FY '24, and it continues through the forecast. Our capital outlay was reduced in '26 and '27 because we did not put in that we would buy buses in those 2 years. One bus was purchased or paid for in FY '25, and then we will come back in '28 and '29 and add monies in to increase or replenish our fleet at that time. The other revenue, which includes our ESC expenditures, we increased that by 2% each year. So these next comparison charts, I like to look at those just to see where we are. So our and I said this is for FY '25, so I'm looking at FY '25, what I submitted in May for FY '25, and in November for what we're submitting now. So our November forecast has these particular numbers. Our May forecast had those particular numbers, and the variance total was an increase of $344,000 for this forecast. And I like to kind of look at that just to see the comparison. I did the same thing with the expenditures. It was interesting, I looked at the May forecast, we had $25.7 million for salaries. In November, we decreased that about $1.1 million. A lot of those were decreased, the other areas were decreased with the exception of capital outlay. So the total decrease was $1.6 million in November, for the November forecast. And the total for expenditures were 3.78% decrease. I'm gonna go back for a second. I wanted to say, on this slide here, let's see, okay, so state foundation. I looked at this, on the May forecast, we had 27.2, and now we have about the same amount of money in state foundation. I didn't realize this until I went to a workshop, that our disadvantaged pupil aid impact monies was reduced because of our community eligibility provision. When the more districts that sign up for that CEP, the less money districts across the state get. So we were one of the first to be in the CEP program, but now all the other districts are wanting to get in that, and that's why our DPIA money is being decreased. So I wanted to share that. And then the homestead rollback for our individuals out in La La Land, out in that I can't see. I wanted to just say that the Homestead Act is for seniors, for adults age 65 and older, and then the rollback is a 12.5% credit for owner-occupied homestead. So for those elders or those Trotwood residents that are 65 years and older, please, you are eligible for a tax credit. So please go to Montgomery County where they have your property taxes and ask for that credit. This is just this just shows basically the red is the expenditures, the blue is the revenue, and then obviously the green is the ending cash balance. And you can see that the ending cash balance has decreased in 2029, and it's below, and it's projected to be -6 million, and again, I will talk about that in a second. So our expenditures are exceeding our revenues throughout the forecast. I always relate that the top two lines, look like an alligator head that's opening as our expenditures increase and our revenue decreases, that gap increases. This slide indicates our 60-day cash balance reserve, and we adopted a 60-day cash reserve policy on April 21st, 2016. Every month when I do the finance report, it indicates how much money we have in terms of days cash reserve on those reports. And so we're way ahead at this point on way ahead of the 60-day cash reserve policy. This is another slide that indicates that 73.1% of all of our state money that I talked about earlier is from the state of Ohio. And so obviously we have to really be keyed on what's going on in the state from 26 to 29, because anything that is being enacted will affect our district. And so I kind of divided all of the little pieces. Our real estate comprises 19%, and other state funds of 3%. And that's the homestead and rollback piece as well. This slide is interesting. Our consultant put this slide in for us to discuss. And so what this slide says is that in FY25, because of our district is on the formula, the state owes us $24.28 million, but we're only paid $23.6 million, and what it is called a phase-in. So we're gonna get the money, but they're phasing it in. So we're owed about almost more than a little $500,000 more than what we're being paid. We'll get the money, but it's coming in very slowly, the extra money. And then this is another graph of our expenditures for FY25. The majority is wages and benefits that we anticipate. I always say that if our wages are 79%, that's well within corporate or district standards, I should say, and we're not overly over on wages and benefits. This is another graph that shows the wages, and I just talked about benefits, purchase services, materials and supplies, and the top part of that is a smaller part is capital. So the note that I put, we're strategically have spent our money and we're planning on implementing those academic initiatives for our students. So every time we talk about spending money, the first thing that we say, this money is for our kids. And then in summary, again, the state resources are the majority, 73.1%. We anticipate having a positive cash balance through 2028. Again, we don't know what's going on with the Fair School Funding Plan because it's only funded through FY25. And of course, our goal is always to try to match our revenues with our expenses. And this last one, I had to put this in because I get this question all the time, and I call it the $1 million question. How did we fare on our May forecast compared to our June 30th, 2024 actuals? And I'm going to go line by line on this. Our state foundation, we received almost $500,000 more. Our other revenue, $631,000, and primarily a large percentage of that revenue is our interest. And so our interest, we've been killing the interest, but now I just saw today that the Federal Reserve will be implementing we think, a 0.5% decrease in the interest rates. And so that money that we've been enjoying the interest, we won't be enjoying it as much. So you will see a decrease next year on that other revenue piece. Our salaries, we forecasted $23 million. We came in actual June of 2024, $1.1 million less, which was wonderful. Retirement, and that's always tied to the salaries, another $500,000. Purchase services, $382,000. Supplies and materials less, a little bit more in capital outlay, and the other two we're trending about the same. And so I looked at the revenues and expenses. If you add the plus minus the expenses, we came out $1.1 million ahead of our projections for last year. So I'm going to show you the 5-year forecast. You'll see that in May we projected a deficit in 2029 of 7.9, I think, million. And that $1 million that we saved here, it went all the way to 2029, and it helped us reduce our deficit to 6.5. So I want to show that 5-year forecast, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain them. So I think everybody has a sheet in front of them. Has a sheet in front of them because you probably can't see this. But you can see your revenues. This November 5-year forecast has 3 years actuals, FY 22, 23, and 24. And now I'm projecting, or not we are projecting FY 25 through 29. So everybody, I want to call your attention to line 6.01 when I talked about deficit spending. And 2024, we started our deficit spending again of $713,000. Do I have a pointer? Is there a pointer? Okay. All right. Can you move that up? Okay, yeah. I want 6 lines to keep going. Yeah. Let's see. Where is it? It's under total expenditures. Where's that? I'm looking for, okay, here it is, I got it, right here. So this line here, 6.01, you can't see on the left, but this 6.01 is $713,374, and as you go through 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, we're up in 29 to $8.7 million. What that is that, we have salaries that have step increases. We do percentage increases. That plays a part in this $8.7 million as well. I'm not saying we can't get to a positive in 2029, but we just need to do a couple things in the next 3 or 4 years in order to cut this deficit way down. Again, most districts, if you look at their 5-year forecast, that their 5-year forecast is negative. I think I'm doing that, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm doing that, my bad. I'm doing that, yeah, I'm doing, I can move that, I guess. Okay, most districts, their 5-year forecast doesn't look like ours. They start their deficit spending and their cash balance negative way before 2029. And so we've done a great job. We just need to keep a laser focus on what we're doing. So if you had any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I'll get back to you with an answer.
I have a question. So when do we anticipate that we get the difference from the state funding? You said we're owed,
It's a phasing, so they phase it in
over 2 years?
So
Okay.
this year and next year, yes. The question was about the phase-in, when will we get that money? It's projected for this year and next year, and it's phased in. They have a phase-in schedule.
What were we like, what were we money-wise forecast versus this year versus when we did it 5 years ago? So like, what were we forecasted to have?
I can't answer that. I would have to look at that. But 5 years ago,
Yeah,
I
so
have no
like,
idea.
like how 2029, we're projecting that we're gonna be under by 8.7?
yeah, so only thing I can remember 5 years ago is that it was positive, it was not negative in 2029. So we had a positive cash balance back then, and we've had that. We've had the luxury of having a positive cash balance since I've been here for 14 years. And so this is the first time this year that we're starting to see that negative cash balance. So 5 years ago, we had a positive cash balance back in 2020.
No, I'm talking about like, what was the, what were we versus the forecast, like, we've had the forecast out 2024 and 2019. Like, how close were we to the number that
I
we
have no idea,
forecasted to be at in 2024, back when we did it 5 years ago?
So basically, do we have the 5-year forecast from 5 years ago? Do you have that somewhere?
I'm sure we have that, but that's really old data, and a lot of things have changed. And so the only thing that we can use now is the current data, and that is the current data that we're presenting to you now. So regardless of what happened 5 years ago, we have to use current data today.
Right, but I think what he's asking, we would just like to see what we were projected to, where we were projected to be now 5 years ago.
Versus where we actually are.
Well, 5 years ago wouldn't have been 2029.
No.
No.
So,
No, I was just using that as an example. Like, we
Yeah.
forecasted out that we're gonna be under 8.7 for 2029. What was that number is what I'm saying in 2024 versus what we have now.
So what was the 2020
Yeah,
forecast?
right, what was the, what were we?
The 2020 or
what were we-
2021 forecast?
Right,
What was that?
were we forecasted to have? I mean, that's not something that we need right now, but that's something that I'd be interested in knowing.
so, okay. I mean, do you want me to go back? You're saying that, do you want me to go back and look at a 5-year forecast?
Yeah, it's
that
like,
I-
I'm just trying to like figure out like where we are, what we're forecasting, right? How close we are in dollar amount to what we're forecasting.
And so, if I go back,
So if like right now we have, I don't know what the finances are off the top of my head, but it's over $25 million. Like, how were we, how much were we forecasted to have back when we did that? And that's not something that I mean, that's just a question that I would like to be able to see.
So
like.
I wanted to show you something. Can you go back to the, and that was the one, the $1 million question, Mr. Lumpkin?
Mhm.
And I put that on purpose because I've been challenged about that. And I wanted to show what we had forecasted in May versus what the actuals were.
Right.
And so and that's current data. I thought that would give us some idea of where we were. So we were off by 1.1 million. I said initially that this is just a projection. You know, a lot of the projections, they could go upside down, but this is a good projection, the best guess, I should say, projection. So I just wanted to show you this one slide that I put here because I thought it would be good information to have. So I said the $1 million question, and that's what I've been challenged and asked many times about how close are we when we do our projection.
Yeah.
And again, a projection is a projection. You know, and things can change. Like I said, the state can change in a minute, and everything, our projection could be thrown out the window.
Do we have any, has the state said anything about what they're doing with HB 33, or they still haven't said, because I mean,
So House Bill 33
Yeah.
is under our current governor, so they will start doing that. Those conversations will start in March, and we'll see in June, the end of June, what that looks like for 26. Yeah, so that we won't know that until almost at the end of this FY '25. So that's why it's really difficult to put a projection up, particularly because of the state foundation, because they don't even know where we might, what monies we might have, increase or decrease. Any other question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Allen, is that your last forecast?
I'm sorry.
Is that the last forecast?
For me?
Yeah.
I got one more
You got
in
one
May.
more?
I got one more in May.
So you at least gotta answer that question.
I'm gonna answer the question. I'm gonna go back and, I got it, because we can go back on ODE and find what you're asking for.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you. Next, number 3 on the agenda, the board report. Item number A is a resolution declaring a vacancy on the Board of Education effective November 21st, 2024. Resolution as stated on the agenda. Item number 4, Treasurer's Report. Yes.
I have two things. I've talked about B, so that's for information only, so that's what that is. I don't have to do B, but A is just information approval of the October 3rd work session minutes and October 17th, 2024 business meeting minutes. And then that, I will present those back and the November 5-year forecast under the consent agenda on November 21st.
Thank you. Number 5 on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Got a few items. The first 3 are for information. D will be for action this evening. The first item, A, is the approval of the Bright Star one-to-one staffing agreement. We have a student coming into our district that has a lot of high needs, and they have a one-to-one aide, and this aide has been with them for several years. So what we're going to do is enter an agreement with the company to provide that same aid with that student, and that is what the Bright Star contract is for. Item B is requesting the approval, again for information, of the donation from ODW Logistics Company for 500 pairs of shoes for the care closet, and $100 from Walmart for the Westbrook Village Elementary Principal Fund. The care closet is the name that we are going to labeled our Family Resource Center. Hopefully within the next month and a half, we'll have a presentation with regards to what that Family Resource Center, our care closet is. Mr. Logan, the social workers, the mental health therapists, a lot of folks, Mrs. Mallory's department have been really Jill Adams have been putting some effort in really trying to refine that and having a really solid process. We're excited about that, and we'll share that with the board, but here shortly. But this is asking for approval of 500 pairs of shoes for that closet. C is approval for an overnight field trip from Westbrook Village, March 17th through 19th, 2025, for attending Camp Kern, their annual Camp Kern field trip, overnight field trip. And D is a resolution to approve this evening, asking for approval for the personnel agenda with the amendment removing item 1 from the agenda. And as you review the personnel agenda, you can see we are using the updated format. Items 1 through 8, separation of services, 9 through 29, appointments and salary adjustments, 30 through 81 supplementals, 82 through 9 to 115 additional supplementals. As you can see, we're getting a lot of our tutoring started, a lot of our after-school programs, yearbook, event staff, STEM camp, all of these additional supplementals that we discussed, and of course some of the fall coaches as well, are all on this agenda for approval. I shared this one with you on Friday for review, and hasn't changed other than that requested amendment. And I am asking for action for that this evening. And I believe that's all I have.
So having reviewed the personnel agenda on Friday, I need a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the personnel agenda as stated.
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Lumpkin?
Yes.
Mrs. Carnington?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cherry?
Yes. Motion passes for the personnel agenda. Next, number 6, discussion items.
All right, spoke with President Cherry, and there are a few items that she did want me to bring to the board with regards to discussion. The first, following up from the last meeting, the strategic plan retreat, in your vanilla folder, I've provided a calendar with a variety of different dates if the board is still interested in having the strategic plan retreat where we review the strategic plan and whether we need to update it, revise it, or just create a new one. So in the calendar, the document labeled A, I've provided some dates. I've cross-referenced these with calendars we have here in the district, some personal conflicts. And as you can see, we're pretty much moved into December. I tried to stay away from Mondays. There are a couple of Mondays, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays because of some of the things that are going on. I added the couple of Thursdays on there. This is for December. And then, of course, a couple of Saturdays, the 14th and the 21st for December. And then also, I provided a calendar for January if December didn't work. Monday, the 13th, the 27th of January, Thursday, the 16th, and the 30th, with note that the board meeting in January, the first board meeting is on the 9th in January. So that schedule is adjusted, and then some Saturdays in January as well. So I don't know how the board would like to proceed, but those are some dates. And then if there are some other additional dates, you can take a look at your calendars as well. and let me know, but, Ms. Cherry did ask to provide some dates, so I did do that. I don't know if you wanna make a determination tonight, take a look at it and review, or whatever is the pleasure of the board.
We'll come up with a date.
Okay,
and we'll get back to you.
all right,
Thank you for that.
okay.
Next for discussion items is item number 6B, and that is the City Athletic League update.
All right, speaking with the president and vice president of the board, I was asked to provide an update on our status with the potential of joining the Dayton City League. There's been a lot of undertow and scuttlebutt with, with regards to us possibly joining, and there was even some information shared in the Dayton Daily News about us possibly joining. We weren't mentioned, but we, as a district, and you guys as a board, we have not made that commitment yet. But what I did want to do is I wanted to have Mr. Smith come up and give the board just a general update on where we are, the discussions that we have had, and ultimately kind of come back and have some conversation with the board about.
When was that in the Daily News?
When was that article in the Dayton Daily News, Mr. Smith? Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. And they mentioned, I think the quote was, they were having discussion with Trotwood, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, they had some discussions with us. It did not say that we had committed or were headed that way, but that they were having discussions with us.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I had probably my 7th meeting since the 1st of January with DPS a couple weeks ago about potential scheduling. And Superintendent and I have had several conversations about that. I will share with the board that time is of the essence with us making a decision, because normally I am done with scheduling for fall now, and I have not scheduled anything. I won't say anything. The majority of our schedule is not complete for next year. And with us being independent, I think it would be advantageous if we move expeditiously, whether we're going to join the Dayton City League or not. We do have a copy of the MOU that I'm sure the superintendent has shared with you or will share with you.
Provided be in your folder.
Okay.
There's a copy of the MOU.
And the article in the Dayton Daily News a few weeks back just stated that Jefferson Township, who is also Dayton Public Schools, is looking at their board and superintendent have agreed, and they took a vote. And so I know that Dayton Public Schools is having a meeting this month to make a decision on their end. But there is, like Superintendent Howard has stated, there was no commitment from us. And I made a very brief statement in the Dayton Daily News that I knew that the superintendent and myself would be having a conversation with the board this evening. But we do need to make a decision sooner rather than later, just to the fact that I need to know for scheduling purposes. And I'll be willing to answer any questions.
What are the cons? I mean, what's the holdup?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the pros and what's the cons? Have you guys discussed it? And are you willing to share it with us tonight, or you wanna wait till another
I
time?
prefer the superintendent to share with the board.
So my only and initial concern, again, I came in, with the understanding that there had been some dialogue starting last spring, maybe. So my initial conversation with Mr. Smith was, of course, to get an update, to kind of find out where we are. So that preceded me to come up with a few questions that I have had personally myself. One such being, how is the management of the conference going to be managed? From the standpoint of governorship, are we going to have one athletic director? Are we going to have a commissioner? So we got those questions answered. There was also a question about facilities. Are we going to be expected to share our facilities with Dayton Public Schools? Are we gonna be expected to allow them to utilize our facilities? We got that question answered. Another one is about security. What is our role and our responsibility in security from the aspect of, if we become a part of this league, are we gonna have a comprehensive security plan? Are we gonna have a plan where all of us are involved? Or is it just when we're there, they got it, and when we're here, we got it? Are they gonna send some of their security folks over? So those are some of the conversations that I've had with Mr. Smith specifically, but also that I have with, that I'm gonna have with Dr. Lawrence. And then one other one was, what is the perspective for the management, as I stated, but when it comes to the general bylaws, can they just put us out the league because of X, Y, Z? Are there some governing laws that state how this league is going to be managed? How are all city and all area, well, not all area, but all cities specifically, how is all of that voted on? So I asked for some specific details from the superintendent, and he and I are supposed to meet and kind of iron some of those things out. But I have entrusted Mr. Smith to have those conversations. He's but he sent me some bylaws that he had created before when he was actually the AD at Dayton Public Schools, which could also be, some of the same governing principles. But there were just a lot of loose details. And what I wanted to do was kind of close some of those holes that I had with regards to that. And then hopefully, once we have that conversation, which is supposed to be in the next week or so, I can bring it back to the board, and then ultimately we're gonna have to make a decision. We're gonna have to make a decision on whether or not we join this league.
Yeah, I feel like that would be best, because those are a lot of valid questions, and I would not want to move forward without having that information. I don't know about the rest of the board. I don't feel comfortable just saying yes.
I do have a question. I said that meeting before, done some of that stuff. Were they receptive to the bylaws that you presented to them?
Yes. And Dr. Lawrence is very open to having a commissioner run the league.
How do we come up with the commissioner?
Who selects the commissioner?
Yeah, but how do we determine?
That's going to be a conversation that Superintendent Howard and Dr. Lawrence will have.
Because so far in this league, it would be Jefferson Township, GPS,
And
Trotwood, and that's,
as of right now.
Yes, and they're having conversations with two Cincinnati schools.
oh, yeah.
So have we
of course,
ever-
Suburban schools.
So of course,
Oh, okay.
when you think about it,
You don't understand how difficult it is to schedule.
right, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Yeah, when you think
like-
No,
about,
I understand how difficult it is to schedule. I get that.
Cause
But-
especially
But for me, it's
at
still.
some point, the only sport that really we're massively ahead of the Dayton Public Schools right now is football. But, when we make decisions like these, they can't be holistically based on just one sport. And scheduling for independent is like,
it's rough.
it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah, it's
difficult.
rough. And I've shared
Okay.
before with the board, in previous boards, when we have a middle school volleyball game, and they gotta go to Cincinnati on a
Right.
Tuesday night, and they get back at 10:30, 11 o'clock, sometimes 11:30 at night. I mean, that's not good for kids.
The bylaws,
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
not
have
good for kids.
bylaws in place.
Yeah, so,
You can't.
so there are definitely some benefits, but we just wanna make sure, and I've
Yeah.
shared this with Mrs. Smith, I just wanna make sure that if those things are not in place, we have the forum to have the conversation to ensure that they get in place. And we are a equal part of making
Yeah,
the
you have to
decisions
make sure it's
in the
happening.
league. Instead of just saying, you guys come here and just do what we've already established. I want us to be an equal part, as far as.
And then there has to
decisions.
also be room for expansion when you have the league that you're creating, in case other things happen. You have to have infrastructure in place to make the league attractive to other people who want to come. So,
I have a question. I see it's slated to start September 2024.
I'm sorry,
Is it slated to start this league September 2024?
spring of '25.
Spring of 25. This is an antiquated, this is just a copy of the MOU so the board can review it. This has not been updated. If if it's the pleasure of the board, we will update all the dates and everything like that, yeah.
Because my question was, why couldn't we go and schedule everything we need to schedule if it's not gonna start until spring of 2025?
The 2025, it's
coming.
right around the corner.
With baseball, softball, boys volleyball. That would be a league schedule.
Well,
What I'm really concerned about is next fall.
Dr. Lawrence, I know you're down with Mr. Harris.
So have we ever been in a league with Dayton Public, ever?
No.
No.
Haven't? Okay.
Jefferson Township has,
Yes,
years
they have.
ago. Years ago, they had maybe in the early eighties.
Jefferson and Chalmette.
Yeah, definitely.
With Trotwood?
No,
No,
with
with
Dayton
Dayton
Public.
Public.
They're in
Oh.
Dayton City.
And that's-
Jefferson and
Chalmette,
Shaman.
yes.
And are they interested?
No.
No, they're in they're GCL co-ed. Co-ed. Any other questions?
So when will this meeting take place, and can we get a tentative date on when we're gonna, move forward?
I'm
One way or
hoping to
the
meet
other.
with Mr. Lawrence within the next week.
So
and
you
a
guys
half. Dr.
haven't, you
Lawrence,
guys
excuse me.
haven't narrowed down a date, and this is coming up quick, right?
Sorry, sir.
So I'm just saying, you and Dr. Lawrence have not narrowed down a date.
No.
I know their
This is-
secretaries, last time I saw Dr. Lawrence, work out the wire every morning together. He said that he knew that his secretary was getting with Superintendent Howard's secretary,
So-
trying to work out something.
Is it possible for us to be able to get this information to decision it by the 21st?
I plan to. Yeah, as soon as I meet with him, I'll put together a summary for you guys and send it to him.
Come on.
That's fair.
Okay?
Anything else, Mr.
That's
Chair?
fair.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Chair.
Thank you.
We just not going, everything need to be in place.
Why are you looking at me like that? Ain't none of those crazy, I understand stuff needs to be in place. I don't need to be preached to about it.
Karen,
I don't.
you need a 20-second timeout.
As
Next.
usual.
On the
Need to be preached to about it.
agenda
You don't always about it.
is subject number C, the FAFSA update and internships.
Okay, so I did get some information to share with the board with regards to the FAFSA. So I spoke to Mr. McCray, I spoke to the counselors via Mrs. Howard and Mrs. Haig. Mrs. Haig. And Mrs. Howard also provided some information. So FAFSA opens December 1st. Today, our counselors attended a countywide FAFSA meeting at, I believe it was at Montgomery County ESC. And from that, what they all do is they put together a list of opportunities that they will have to share the FAFSA information with families. So Mr. McCray is going to be meeting with his counseling staff here in the next couple of days, and they are going to get some dates on the schedule with regards to FAFSA family nights. They are also going to utilize sports, also utilize winter sports to engage families with regards to FAFSA prep, FAFSA information. The meeting was just today, so once I get those dates from the counselors and Mr. McCray, I will make sure I share those with the board. I think they're looking to have 3 or 4 nights prior to the spring where they try to engage families with regards to FAFSA and FAFSA completion. The internship question, that's kind of an issue that we're still really trying to discover. I spoke to Mr. McCray, I spoke to the counselors, and I'm not sure what those specific internships were, and they are not either. So I don't know if I need to go back and look in some previous board minutes or talk to some folks who may have known. The only one that Mr. McCray and I knew about was the Cash gentleman, and that group was not able to support the internship, so they ended up cutting a check to the board. I don't know, maybe Ms. Cherry, I don't know if
That
you.
was gated property.
Gated Properties, there you
yeah.
go. Right, Gated Properties. And Cash, Richard Cash, was that the guy's name? Yeah. That may or may have not been that name, his name. But Gated Properties were supposed to provide some internship opportunities, and they were not able to fulfill that. So they just decided to just write the board a check for the district. Now, with that being
Yeah,
said,
it was like, what was it, like $5,000?
yeah, $5,000, yep. With that being said, that doesn't mean that, there weren't opportunities out there, but me, as of right now, sitting in the seat, I don't know exactly what those were, so I'm gonna work with Mr. McCray
I
and the
thought the other
council.
one was from the AFCIO, Diane Hayes in the AFC. I thought she spoke to the previous superintendent about some, internship
When I think
opportunities.
about like Strata Cash, for
Yeah,
instance.
Strata Cash. It
You know,
was
that was long way back, when I first got here, they built that, and when we went and toured that, what they're doing, our kids need to know about that kind of technology. And so, that's one that's
Beyond.
sitting there
So
in,
that's beyond
in
tech.
Trotwood.
Yeah, it's not Stratacash anymore.
It's beyond tag now.
Yeah.
But,
So,
I mean, we also abated them.
right.
Yes, exactly,
So,
that's exactly right.
The accountability piece, and I think I asked this of the previous superintendent, like who's tracking, who's being active in those internships? Because, I mean, they actually have an obligation because we provided a tax incentive for them to come to provide us with those internships. And I think it should be on public record that writing us a $5,000 check, it might sound good, but versus an internship, that's pennies on the dollar, if it is pennies on the dollar. So like, the internship opportunity for the kids to transition in the workforce is far more of a win for that.
So one of the, I guess, charges that I will take is trying to reestablish some of those,
Well, I
some
think
of
the
those
C-
conversations.
I think
and
the
then
CIC should be responsible for.
CIC, working with the
figuring out where
CIC,
that is, too.
maybe engaging them in conversation.
That on our agenda call.
Okay, engaging the CIC in conversation. And what is the name of Stratacash again? What is
It's beyond tech now.
Beyond Tech?
But there's always what Strafo is building right now too.
Because CIC did come over here and they did
Well, that's
request
in,
those.
that's in
abatements,
their
yeah.
presentation
Yeah,
that
okay.
internships would be available for those things. We just have to hold them accountable to making sure that they are.
And follow up. Okay, so what I will do is I will follow up and give me a little time, and then I'll bring something back to you guys. All right, and that's all I have with regards to those updates.
Thank you. Moving to item number 7, treasurer comments.
In front of you, I put my November 7th treasurer's update. We had a really good PD, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. Tuesday, the treasurer's office and the human resources department put on a PD for clerical and secretaries. And it was about 20 individuals that attended. We went over various things, but I thought it was well attended, and I thought the information that we provided was very good. Fraud training, I mentioned this a couple months ago, and you guys went through it yourself to listen to the 8-minute video. We are still working on that. That has to be accomplished by November 29th, that every single employee that works for the district has to either watch that video or watch it through Public School Works. And so all of the secretaries were given a list of those individuals. I also will go over that on Saturday at our admin meeting, just to make sure that we're compliant. Because I know next year, I won't be here, but when the auditor comes in and says, did Janice Allen watch that video, they can go right to the sheets in central office and see that Janice Allen name was on the assignment sheet. The other good news is that the FY '24 audit is scheduled to be completed November 18th. Usually, I mean, I am just over the top. Usually, they're still here during Christmas. And so, the owner of Plattenberg sent me an email today and said, Janice, we don't see any issues. And so I am very, very, very excited that they're going to finish this audit in less than 10 days. And then just at the bottom, there was just some upcoming meetings and events that either I will be attending or the school district's involved in. So I just wanted to update you on that, so and that's all I have.
Thank you. Superintendent comments. Number 8.
All right. If you refer to your folder, item D labeled, that is the superintendent's update for November. It includes a general summary of some of the things that are going on this month, along with some upcoming dates for the district. I want to bring your attention to just a couple specifically. Not yesterday, excuse me, the 5th. It was also on election day. The 4th is not right. I did have a meeting with the city of Trotwood. I met with Quincy Pope, the assistant city manager, and Quincy Pope's new assistant. We had some very spirited dialogue on the relationship between the school and the city, and just kind of alluding to the conversation that we just had with regards to, you know, we're in this together. So if we've been allowed the opportunity to have some internships for our students, we need to hold each other accountable to making sure that it happens. We talked a lot about the idea and the concept of the group homes coming into the community. We talked about some achievement data. We talked about a lot of different things, but ultimately we landed on the fact that the school and the city need to reestablish their working relationship. And it was a very positive conversation. Myself, Quincy, Stephanie, and the young lady, I think her name is Jamaica White. She's the new assistant to the city manager. So our goal is to ultimately have some dialogue and ultimately continue dialogue and set forth a standing meeting, maybe monthly or bi-monthly, from the standpoint of the administrators in the city. Want to make note to a couple other specific dates. 11/9, if you look at the next flyer in your packet after the superintendent's update, there is a flyer for Central State Preview Day, College Preview Day. We have 60 students that have signed up to attend College Preview Day at Central State. 40 of them, I believe, have confirmed and filled out all of the information with regards to attending Preview Day. Preview Day is this upcoming Saturday, September 9th, and in the flyer it has all the information what's going on with Preview Day. So we're going to take at least one bus of students, and we also just got confirmation from Central that any seniors that are interested in coming to Preview Day, attending Preview Day, and that may be interested in Central State University, if they bring their transcripts, there's an opportunity for them to get accepted on site. So we're really excited about that. I want to give kudos to Mrs. Howard and Mrs. Foster Jones, Brittany Foster Jones. They are going to be supervising and chaperoning the field trip, along with a couple other teachers, Mr. Stone, I believe, maybe Miss Bennett. So we got a good group going out to Central on Saturday. I may meet them out there to attend the football game, but I'm excited about that. 11/27, the next flyer in your packet is the annual Thanksgiving turkey takeaway. This is, I believe, the third year. We've participated in this from 9 to 11. Miami Valley Meals, along with some of their volunteers and some of our students, I think our SALT team is trying to get an opportunity to be a part of this. We'll be distributing meals, ready to go take home meals for Thanksgiving to any individual that is interested in coming. They'll be housed at the high school, and if you come there about 8 o'clock, the cars start lining up. And I think last year they maybe gave over almost 250 to 300 meals away. So we continue to be a partner with Miami Valley Meals with regards to the Thanksgiving giveaway. Some other dates, to make sure that you're aware of, remember the Chamber of Commerce meeting dinner is tomorrow. We have two people that have RSVP. The president and vice president will be there along with myself for a little bit. I believe we will, I just got confirmation, we'll be receiving the award for large business of the year. So I ask that when that is, that is announced, that you guys go up and receive the award tomorrow. It may not be. I might be able to pull some strings. So I can call and see if you're interested.
I didn't RSVP.
Okay, it's okay. We had two people RSVP.
Can Dion, can we be Dion and Sons guests?
I don't know. You may be able to do that, but you might not get a meal. You might not get it. But I'll call tomorrow. I'll call Ms. Battle in the morning. Also, and I think Ms. Allen may remind you guys about this. OSBA is this upcoming weekend. I think Mrs. Potter has all of the folders ready to go. So once we get through, she'll let you know. One that I'm a little disappointed about is that I didn't share with you guys because there was some miscommunication on the invitation. The JRTC military ball is Saturday night, and it's usually a pretty interesting and pretty cool event. It's at Sinclair, and we didn't get the information. There was some miscommunication about the invitation, and Dr. Graves and Mrs. Potter, we finally got together on that. So I just wanted to make you aware that it is this evening. And if you can't make it, he totally understands. If you know, it's Saturday night at 6 o'clock at Sinclair. Yeah, the JRT military ball. And then last but not least, there are 2 copies of the Ram Nation News. The Ram Nation News, you have 2 color copies in your folder. This is the monthly newsletter that we send home to parents via Parent Square. We started in October, so there are 2 copies of the Ram Nation News in your folder. Every parent in the district, every staff member in the district will get a copy of the Ram Nation News. Some of the highlights in the newsletter, we're talking about our new billboards that we have out. I don't know if you've seen them around the community. We got some really great billboards that are out there. Also, our new attendance initiative. We are really going to put forth some effort in addressing chronic absenteeism in the school district. In next board meeting, I'm gonna have Ms. Anderson and some of the members of the team. We put a little team together, come up and talk about what our intended attendance initiative is. We've coined the moniker "Attendance Equals Achievement. Every minute matters." We're really excited about that. If you look in the newsletter, you see our little logo that we put together, Ms. Anderson and her group. So we're really centered and focused on attacking attendance, chronic absenteeism in the district. Also, some of the snapshots of some of our staff members. So, without being said, it's a pretty good, pretty cool outlet for us to really increase communication to our families and tell our story in a sense. So we're hoping to continue this throughout the year and continue this from that standpoint. I need to get a picture of the board because we're going to do a little highlight of the board in one of the upcoming editions as well. Okay. Great stories, good information, a lot of positive things, and like I said, we got to keep telling our story, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our board agenda is board comments. Mrs. Currington.
I would like to thank you all for coming out and sitting here through these meetings. I think that's important that we recognize you guys. Mr. Howard, I thank you for always giving us a wealth of information. I appreciate the presentation that Madam Treasurer presented tonight. I'm excited about the preview day at Central State. I think that's an awesome idea, and I really like the name of the resource center, the care center. I really like that. That says a lot about us. I think that's something that we have to do, take care of each other and try to take care of our community. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lumpkin?
This week has been a very interesting week. And I will tell you that in some conversations that I've had with some of the students that I'm closest with, they've been very tough, but they've been also very honest conversations about how to conduct themselves when they're in public. And the one thing that we always have to make sure that our students know is that the school that they attend and the community that they live in is always going to be a safe space no matter what's going on. So just making sure that we reinforce that message. I got an opportunity to attend a coffee with the principal at the middle school, where he shared some very valuable information about the state data and how our middle school got 3 stars on its growth metric, and how they were only a half point behind Northmont's middle school. And one of the things that he pointed out to the parents was the absenteeism in the middle school was at 53% versus 19% in Northmont. So literally the difference between our middle school and Trotwood-Madison being a 3-star is the fact that our students aren't coming to school every day. So I want to issue a challenge to the parents in our district, because we get your Facebook messages, we get your emails, we read the books of letters that you write when something goes wrong. But when something goes right, and we have people that are engaged, like how Principal Gibson and his staff are at the middle school, we need the support from our parents to make sure that our students are in our buildings. And that's the way that we can make the difference. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice President, Mrs. Simmons?
I would like to say thank you to our middle school students who came out and read our mission statement this evening. They did a great job. I think that's just another example of how we show up, our kids show up, and as Aaron has just stated, our parents have to show up as well by sending them to school every day. I love the fact the care center, great thing. When I was the kinship navigator director, we had a kinship closet. So I love the name and I love that concept. Preview day, my understanding was less than 5 kids attended this year, so to go from 5 to 60 kids this year, great job, Mrs. Howard and Brittany Jones Foster for that initiative, and any other staff person that helped that. Turkey giveaway, that's always big. We know families don't thrive unless we meet those basic needs. So thanks, Trotwood, for being able to do our part and partnering with our community partners. And looking forward to our OSB conference this week, learning more and coming back and using those tools to better our district and to serve our students here in the district. And that's all I have.
Well, I would like to first off congratulate our students of the month. Sincere Dominique, who carries a 3.9 GPA, and Courtney Williams, who carries a 3.6 GPA. I want just like to congratulate them, who exemplify high moral characters inside and outside of the classroom. Not only them, but all of our honor roll students, as I've said once before, and our students that continue to work hard to improve their academic achievements. So I would like to say that. Also, was kind of late, but I did show up at the coffee with Mr. Gibson at the middle school, and I do agree with board member Mr. Lumpkin in reference to the great idea, the great information that was shared, and unfortunately very little parent participation and engagement. It is a challenge to get our parents to participate in things like that, so I too agree, like I said, with Mr. Lumpkin, to challenge our parents to come out and participate in things that the district is putting on. So, but parents, if you have any questions, ideas, or anything like that, we do have an open door policy. So, I mean, but it's up to you all to, engage with the staff, the principals, not only on a negative note, like Mr. Lumpkin said, but something positive as well. So we're gonna challenge the parents to be more active and more involved, with the students. I will also like to take the time to thank all the staff who put together so many October events, the events in October. I think that they were very well attended. I would like some little feedback from the parents, if we could get a little feedback, because it was a lot going on. And I do appreciate the time and the effort that the staff extended themselves to ensure that those events were well attended. I do appreciate that. Other than that, I don't have anything else. So I need a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, discipline, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, license of regulated individual per BOE policy 0166 and ORC 1212. Action may be taken.
I make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Ms. Allen, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Currington,
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons, Mr. Lumpkin,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cherry.
Yes, motion passes. We will enter into executive session at 6:52.